Millionaire mistake that changed her life. A waitress finds love she never expected. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into the story of a woman who, at the lowest point of her life, is offered a marriage proposal she never saw coming. A proposal that promises her security, but it's not what she expected. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let's find out together. Emma Brooks couldn't help but feel out of place as she stepped into the upscale New York restaurant. The soft hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware filled the air, setting the atmosphere for what was supposed to be a casual blind date. But Emma didn't feel casual at all. Her dress was secondhand, her shoes scuffed from long hours on her feet serving at the local diner, and her nerves were on edge. It wasn't the kind of place she'd normally find herself in, but Jenny, her best friend, had insisted. "You deserve a nice night out," Jenny had said. "Go. You never know what might happen." Emma glanced at her phone again, feeling the weight of her own insecurity. "Table 7, she muttered under her breath, her heart racing. She scanned the room, spotting a well-dressed man sitting alone at the back of the room. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he appeared to be absorbed in his phone, looking every bit the part of the successful man he likely was. She hesitated for a moment but then walked over, forcing a bright smile on her face. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, her voice a little shakier than she intended. The man looked up, blinking at her in mild confusion before his gaze softened. Hi Emma," he said, clearly thrown off but trying to mask it. Emma misread his moment of hesitation as shyness and slid into the chair across from him. She immediately started talking to fill the awkward silence. "I know this is a bit weird. Blind dates can be awkward, right?" she said, laughing nervously. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man, who had yet to correct her, let out a soft chuckle. "Right. Blind dates are something else," he said, his tone warm but distant. Emma felt a little relieved at his attempt to play along. Maybe this wasn't going to be as bad as she'd feared. She took a sip of water, her hand still shaking. "Tell me about yourself," she asked, trying to steer the conversation. "What do you do?" He hesitated for just a moment, then said, "I work in tech." Emma perked up, eager to keep the conversation going. "Tech? Like coding or apps?" "I'm terrible with computers," she laughed. "Something like that," he replied with a small smile. The conversation flowed from there, surprisingly easily. Emma found herself telling him about her struggles to pay rent and her dreams of opening an art studio one day. She shared stories about her life, never once thinking she was talking to a millionaire, let alone the person who could change her life forever. She was about to ask him more when her phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw a text from Jenny. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Emma's heart sank. She looked up at the man, her face flushing with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, barely above a whisper. The man's expression faltered for a brief second, guilt flickering in his eyes. "No," he said, the word coming out in a quiet rush. Emma felt the color drain from her face. "Oh my God," she muttered, standing up abruptly. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." The man stood as well, trying to calm her down. "Emma, wait," he said, but she was already grabbing her coat, her face burning with humiliation. She bolted for the door, her heart pounding. As she hurried out of the restaurant, Liam Parker, the man she'd just shared an hour-long conversation with, watched her go. There was a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling in his chest, but he didn't understand why he felt that way. Why did he care so much that she had left? What was it about her that intrigued him so much? He would never have expected that a simple mistake in a blind date would make him wonder if he'd ever see her again. Would he? That thought lingered long after she was gone. Emma, on the other hand, rushed back to her small apartment, cursing herself the entire way. "I'm such an idiot," she groaned, flopping onto the couch. She buried her face in a throw pillow, trying to forget the embarrassment. "I hope I never see him again," she muttered, though a small part of her couldn't shake the memory of his smile. Could it be that this mistake wasn't the end of the world? Maybe Jenny was right. Sometimes, mistakes were the start of something bigger. Emma's phone buzzed again, and this time it was a text from an unknown number. "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd love to see you again. How about coffee?" Emma stared at the message in disbelief, her heart racing. Could this really be happening? Would she say yes? She showed the message to Jenny, who was grinning from ear to ear. "What are you waiting for? Say yes," Jenny urged. Emma hesitated for a moment, then finally replied, "Okay, coffee sounds nice." She had no idea that this seemingly small mistake would lead to a life-changing series of events. But for now, all she knew was that Liam Parker, the man she had thought was just another stranger, had invited her for coffee. And she had no idea what that would mean for her future. Would it change everything? She was about to find out. The next morning, Emma couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety as she stared at the message from Liam on her phone. Her heart skipped a beat every time she read it again. "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd love to see you again. How about coffee?" She didn't know why, but part of her wanted to say yes. She hadn't been able to stop thinking about their conversation, even if she had initially embarrassed herself by sitting at the wrong table. The more she thought about it, the more she realized there was something intriguing about him. Despite the awkward start, their conversation had flowed so easily, and she had felt more comfortable with him than she had with most people in a long time. Emma sat there, staring at the phone for what felt like an eternity, her finger hovering over the reply button. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to meet him again. But she couldn't shake the feeling of being an imposter in his world. He was clearly successful, well-dressed, and confident, while she was just a waitress trying to get by. What could he possibly see in someone like her? She shook her head, trying to push the thoughts away. "It's just coffee," she told herself. "It's not like I'm committing to anything." With a deep breath, she typed out a quick response. "Okay, coffee sounds nice. When and where?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed with a reply. "How about 3 p.m. at the Roasted Bin on 5th? It's a quiet spot, perfect for conversation." Emma smiled as she read the message, her nerves easing slightly. It wasn't a fancy place, but it was familiar and comfortable. She couldn't help but feel a little giddy at the thought of seeing him again. Later that afternoon, Emma arrived at the Roasted Bin early, trying to shake off the last bit of nervous energy. She spotted Liam almost immediately as she walked in, sitting at a corner table, his eyes scanning the room. He looked even more attractive in a casual outfit, dark jeans and a simple shirt, but somehow still polished. She paused for a moment, unsure whether to walk over or give him a few more minutes. But before she could decide, Liam looked up and smiled at her. "Emma," he said, standing up. "I'm glad you could make it." His voice was warm, and he seemed genuinely happy to see her. Emma's nerves melted away as she returned the smile. "Thanks for the invite. I wasn't sure I was going to make it," she admitted, pulling out the chair to sit down. "I'm glad you did. It's good to finally meet you under less confusing circumstances," Liam said, his smile turning slightly mischievous. Emma laughed, feeling the last of her tension ease away. "Yeah, the whole sitting at the wrong tables thing was pretty embarrassing," she admitted, running her fingers through her hair. "But I'm glad we're doing this now." Liam leaned back in his chair, his eyes studying her with a thoughtful expression. "Me too. You seem different from the usual people I meet. I liked how honest and down-to-earth you were. Emma felt her cheeks flush, but she quickly covered it with a laugh. Well, I try. I mean, it's not like I have much to hide. I'm just a waitress trying to make ends meet, you know. Liam nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. I get that. I respect it. They both sat in silence for a moment, the soft hum of the coffee shop filling the air. Emma tried to think of something to say, but she found herself lost in the moment, wondering why he was being so kind to her. The more she got to know him, the more she realized that he was nothing like the uptight businessman she had imagined. He wasn't just polite, he seemed genuinely interested in her. So, tell me about yourself, Liam asked, breaking the silence. What's your dream? What do you want to do with your life? Emma took a deep breath, surprised by how easily the question slipped off his tongue. I guess. I've always wanted to open my own art studio. I've been sketching since I was a kid, but life's always gotten in the way, she said, her voice quieter now. But I haven't given up on it. I just need a little more time, a little more stability. Liam's eyes softened as he listened to her. I think that's a great dream. I'm sure you'll get there. Emma wasn't sure why, but hearing him say that made her feel more confident in her own dream. For the first time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could actually make it happen. As the conversation continued, Emma found herself opening up to Liam more than she ever thought she would. She told him about her mom's struggles with health and how she had to work multiple jobs to keep things afloat. She shared her passion for painting, and how she always imagined her art in a gallery one day. Liam listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and never once making her feel like she was talking too much or saying too little. He was just there. For a moment, Emma forgot all about the gap between their worlds. The difference in their lives didn't matter. They were just two people, sharing stories and dreams over coffee. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like someone saw her, not for her job, not for her circumstances, but for who she really was. After a while, the conversation turned to lighter topics. They laughed about funny things that had happened at work, and Liam even shared a few amusing stories about his own experiences in the tech world. As the hours passed, Emma realized she hadn't felt this relaxed in ages. The clock on the wall struck 5 p.m., and she suddenly realized how long they'd been talking. Wow, I didn't realize how much time had passed, she said, glancing at her watch. Liam smiled. I guess we got a little carried away. But I'm glad we did. Emma stood up, feeling a mix of reluctance and happiness. Me too, she said. Thanks for the coffee. It was really nice to just talk and not worry about everything else. Liam stood with her, offering her a small smile. Anytime, Emma. I'd love to do this again, if you're up for it. Emma's heart skipped a beat at his words. I'd like that. She turned to leave, but as she walked away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rising within her. Maybe this was the start of something more than just a casual meeting. Maybe it was the beginning of a connection that could change her life. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was on the verge of something new, and it felt exciting. Something about Liam made her believe in the possibility of dreams coming true, even for someone like her. The days that followed Emma's coffee date with Liam seemed to blur together in a haze of new possibilities. Emma couldn't help but think about their conversation, about the way Liam listened to her, and how comfortable she felt around him. It was as if, for the first time in a long while, she wasn't just a waitress trying to make ends meet, she was someone worth listening to, worth paying attention to. She tried to push the thoughts to the back of her mind, focusing on her work, but every time she looked at her phone, her heart skipped when she saw Liam's name. It had only been a few days, but she couldn't deny the chemistry between them. One evening, as Emma was finishing up her shift, her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. Hey, Emma, I was wondering if you'd like to join me for a charity gala next week. It's a big event, and I think you'd enjoy it. Let me know what you think. She stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the screen. A charity gala? She hadn't been to anything like that before. She knew it would be a fancy, high-class event, filled with people she could never imagine herself mingling with. But there was something about Liam's invitation that made her feel like maybe she belonged there, maybe she belonged with him. She took a deep breath and typed back, "I'd love to. Thanks for the invite, Liam. It sounds like a lot of fun." As the night of the gala approached, Emma found herself more nervous than excited. She had no idea what to wear. Most of her clothes were either hand-me-downs or the cheap outfits she bought at thrift stores. But then, as if Liam had known exactly what she needed, he sent her a message a few days before the event, "I've arranged for you to have something to wear. A designer is going to drop off a dress for you to try on. I hope that's okay." Emma stared at the message in disbelief. A designer? She didn't know how to respond. She felt like a fish out of water in a world so different from her own. But at the same time, she couldn't deny the excitement bubbling up inside her. This was real. This could be real. The day before the gala, the dress arrived at her apartment. It was beautiful, sleek, elegant, and nothing like anything she had ever worn before. She slipped it on, staring at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her seemed like a stranger. She didn't recognize the person in the dress, someone who looked confident and graceful. She wasn't sure if she could pull it off, but something in her wanted to try. She wanted to feel beautiful, even if it was just for one night. When she arrived at the venue the night of the gala, Emma felt like she had stepped into another world. The ballroom was filled with rich, well-dressed people, their laughter and chatter echoing off the grand walls. She felt out of place, but then she saw Liam. He was talking to a group of people, but as soon as his eyes landed on her, his face lit up. "Emma, you look stunning," he said, his voice full of admiration. Emma felt her cheeks flush at his words. "Thank you," she said, trying to steady her nerves. "I feel a little out of my element here." Liam chuckled, stepping closer. "You look like you belong," he said, his tone sincere. "Trust me, you're not the only one who feels out of place in these things." Emma smiled, feeling a little more at ease. The night passed in a blur of conversations, laughter, and elegant dinner courses. Emma didn't know many of the people at the event, but Liam made her feel included, introducing her to others, keeping her close by his side. She felt more comfortable with him than she ever thought she would. As the night wore on, they found themselves on the balcony, looking out over the city skyline. Liam leaned against the railing, his eyes focused on the lights below. "I'm glad you came," he said softly. Emma looked up at him, her heart pounding. "I'm glad you invited me," she replied, her voice quieter than usual. For a moment, there was a silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt natural, like two people who were simply enjoying each other's company. Liam turned to face her, his eyes serious now. "I've been thinking a lot about you, Emma," he said, his voice low. Emma's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, unsure of what he was getting at. Liam hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like we have a connection. And I want to see where it goes. Not just as a business arrangement, not as a casual fling, but something more." Emma felt a rush of emotions at his words. She had never expected anything like this. She had thought they were just two people enjoying a coffee together, but now, she was beginning to realize that Liam wanted something deeper. Something real. But she wasn't sure if she could believe it. She had never been in a relationship like this, and the idea of opening up to someone so different from her felt overwhelming. She had spent so long building walls around herself to protect her heart. "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never done this before. I've never been this close to someone like you." Liam took a step closer, his hand gently brushing hers. "Emma, I'm not asking you to change who you are. I just want to see where this could go. I want to get to know the real you, the person behind the waitress. You deserve more than what you've had. And I want to be the one who helps you find it." Emma looked into his eyes, and for the first time, she felt like someone truly understood her. Maybe this wasn't just a mistake after all. Maybe it was the beginning of something much more. As the night came to an end, Emma realized that for the first time in years, she felt like she had a chance at something real, something she could build on. And just maybe, with Liam by her side, she could finally start to believe in herself again. The days following the gala felt like a whirlwind for Emma. Every time she saw Liam, her heart seemed to race a little faster. The connection they had shared was undeniable, but she still couldn't quite bring herself to fully trust it. She had lived most of her life protecting herself from getting hurt, and now, with Liam, she was slowly allowing herself to feel something that was foreign yet so tempting. The walls she had built around herself seemed to be crumbling, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to let them all come down. Liam seemed different, though. He wasn't like the men she had known in the past, who only saw her as a waitress or someone to pass the time with. There was something genuine about him, something that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, this could be real. As the week went on, they met more frequently. It wasn't just coffee anymore. Sometimes it was dinner at a quiet restaurant, other times it was walks through the park, or even visits to the art gallery Emma loved so much. Liam had even asked her to show him her sketches one evening, a gesture that meant more to her than she had expected. He listened intently as she explained her artwork, asking thoughtful questions, and genuinely showing an interest in what she loved. No one had ever done that before, not with such care, and certainly not with such admiration. Emma couldn't help but feel a spark of hope every time she saw him. One evening, after a dinner date, Liam drove Emma home. The car ride was peaceful, the soft hum of the engine filling the space between them as the city lights passed by. Emma gazed out the window, lost in thought, when she heard Liam's voice break the silence. "I've been thinking a lot about us, Emma," he said quietly, his tone serious but gentle. She turned her gaze toward him, her heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated for a moment, clearly gathering his thoughts. "I don't know how to say this, but I feel like we've started something here, something I don't want to let go of. I'm not saying it's perfect or easy, but I want to explore this with you. I want to see where it can go." Emma's heart raced. Was he serious? Was he really saying this? She had been feeling the same way, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel more real. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this kind of vulnerability, but part of her knew that if she didn't take the chance now, she might regret it. "Liam," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never been in a relationship like this before. I've always been so afraid to open up, but with you, it feels different. I'm just scared of what it might mean. What if it doesn't work? What if I get hurt?" Liam reached over and gently took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I understand your fears, Emma. I really do. But I promise I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because I believe in what we're building. And if we take it slow, we can figure it out together." Emma took a deep breath, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. She had spent so much time protecting herself, but was it possible to let someone in? Was it possible to trust someone with her heart after all these years? "I'm just not sure if I'm ready for this kind of commitment," she confessed, her voice full of uncertainty. Liam nodded, his expression softening. "I'm not asking for you to make any decisions right now. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to take this at whatever pace feels right for you. You're not alone in this." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the soft hum of the car as it rolled down the street. Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her. Maybe she wasn't ready to dive headfirst into something so serious, but Liam's words reassured her. She didn't have to rush. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had control over her own feelings. Liam pulled up to her apartment building, parking the car outside. He turned to her, his expression earnest. "I really care about you, Emma," he said quietly. Emma's heart fluttered at his words. She had heard men say those words before, but they had never felt like they meant something real. With Liam, it felt different. She smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "I care about you too, Liam," she replied, her voice full of sincerity. As she stepped out of the car and walked into her building, Emma felt a sense of warmth settle in her chest. She wasn't sure where this relationship would take her, but she was willing to take the chance. For the first time in a long time, Emma believed in the possibility of love, of a love that was real, that could change everything. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Emma. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between her and Liam. She had spent so many years building walls around herself, afraid of letting anyone get too close, but with him, she found herself opening up in ways she never expected. It wasn't just the luxurious dinners or the high-end events, it was the way Liam made her feel seen and heard, as if she mattered. He wasn't like anyone she had ever known. She was starting to believe that maybe she could trust him, that maybe she didn't have to be afraid anymore. But as much as she wanted to give herself to this, a small part of her still held back, unsure if this was real or just a fleeting fantasy. One evening, after a long day at work, Emma received a text from Liam. "Hey, I know you've been working hard lately. I was thinking we could have a quiet evening together, just the two of us. I'll pick you up at 7. Emma smiled as she read the message, feeling a rush of excitement. It had been a while since they had spent time alone without the pressure of events or other people around. She agreed, quickly replying, "That sounds perfect. I'll be ready." Later that evening, when Liam picked her up, she noticed that he was dressed casually, but there was still something about him that made her feel like she was in the presence of someone important. His smile was warm as he opened the car door for her, and she slid into the seat, her nerves suddenly kicking in. She had no idea where he was taking her, but she was excited. "Where are we going?" she asked, glancing over at him. He smiled, his eyes glinting with mystery. "It's a surprise," he said. The drive was smooth, the city lights sparkling outside the windows, and Emma felt a sense of anticipation building within her. They finally arrived at a cozy little restaurant tucked away on a quiet street, far from the usual busy spots they had visited before. It was the kind of place that had a charm to it, the kind of place where the food was simple but amazing, and the atmosphere was intimate. As they walked in, the host greeted them warmly, leading them to a small table by the window. Liam pulled out her chair, and as Emma sat down, she couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. This was different from anything she had ever experienced. The restaurant felt like it belonged in a different world, one that Emma hadn't yet fully stepped into, but it was slowly starting to feel like it was part of her world now too. The evening unfolded effortlessly, they talked about everything and nothing, the conversation flowing naturally between them. They laughed about silly things, and Emma felt herself becoming more and more comfortable, allowing herself to just be in the moment. She shared more about her dreams of opening an art studio, about her past struggles, and about how much she longed for a future where she could make something of herself, something that wasn't defined by her current life. Liam listened intently, never interrupting, never looking away. She could see the care in his eyes, the genuine interest in her words. She didn't have to put on a mask for him, she didn't have to pretend to be someone else. He accepted her, flaws and all. As they finished their meal, Liam leaned back in his chair and looked at her with a softness in his eyes. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other night," he began, his voice gentle. "I want you to know that I'm not rushing you into anything. I don't want to pressure you. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I care about you. I'm not going anywhere." Emma's heart fluttered at his words, a feeling of warmth spreading through her. For so long, she had been afraid of opening up, of letting herself be vulnerable. But with Liam, it felt different. "I care about you too," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I'm ready to trust someone completely again. I've been hurt before." Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his touch gentle and reassuring. "I understand," he said. "But I'm not like the others. I'm not going to hurt you, Emma. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and I want to be part of your journey, however long it takes." She stared at their hands, the connection between them undeniable. She wanted to believe him, but the fear still lingered, gnawing at the edges of her heart. "I want to believe you," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Liam squeezed her hand gently, his thumb brushing over her skin in a way that calmed her nerves. "You don't have to make any decisions right now," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time. I just want to show you that love doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple, like this, just being here together, enjoying each other's company." Emma nodded, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Maybe he was right. Maybe love didn't have to be as hard as she thought. Maybe, for once, she could allow herself to feel something real. As the night went on, Emma realized that this was the kind of connection she had always dreamed of, a love that didn't come with expectations or pressure, but one that was built on trust and understanding. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to let herself fall. As Liam drove her home, the city streets passing by in a blur, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settling over her. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt hopeful. Maybe this was the beginning of something beautiful. As the days passed, Emma found herself growing more comfortable with Liam, though a part of her still held back. She had never allowed herself to become so close to someone, especially someone like him. She had always felt that people like Liam, successful, wealthy, confident, were out of her league. But with him, it felt different. The more time they spent together, the more Emma realized that it wasn't about the money or the status, it was about the way Liam made her feel. He saw her. He truly saw her for who she was, not for her job or her past. But despite the growing connection between them, Emma still couldn't shake the nagging feeling of uncertainty. Could this really be real? Could she trust him with her heart? One afternoon, as Emma was walking out of the diner after her shift, she felt her phone buzz in her pocket. It was a text from Liam. "Hey, Emma, I need your help with something. Can we meet tonight?" She was taken aback for a moment. What did he need her help with? She hadn't expected him to reach out for something like that. She quickly typed back, "Of course, what's going on?" Liam's reply came almost immediately, "It's a surprise. I promise you'll like it. Meet me at 7. Emma couldn't help but feel curious. What was he planning? She agreed and found herself feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness as the hours passed. At exactly 7, she arrived at the location Liam had sent her, a small, quaint art gallery on a quiet street. The lights inside were warm and soft, casting a glow on the various paintings and sculptures on display. Liam was already there, waiting for her by the entrance, his expression warm as he greeted her. "Hey, you made it," he said, his voice full of enthusiasm. Emma smiled, her heart fluttering a little at the sight of him. "Of course. What is this place?" she asked, glancing around in awe. "It's an art show," Liam explained, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "But not just any art show. I wanted to show you something special, something that might inspire you." Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Inspire me? How?" Liam grinned. "Just trust me. You'll see." They walked inside, and Emma couldn't help but marvel at the beautiful artwork surrounding them. There were paintings, sculptures, and photographs, each one unique and breathtaking in its own way. But what caught her attention the most was a painting in the back of the gallery. It was a beautiful, abstract piece, full of swirling colors and shapes that seemed to tell a story. Emma walked up to it, captivated. "This is amazing," she whispered, her fingers gently grazing the frame. "It's beautiful." Liam stood behind her, watching her reaction. "I thought you'd like it," he said softly. "This piece reminded me of you, the way you see the world, the way you express yourself. It's chaotic, yet so full of life. It's exactly how I imagine your art would be." Emma turned to him, her heart swelling at his words. She had never heard anyone describe her work like that before. "You really think that?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Liam smiled, stepping closer to her. "I do. And I think you have so much potential. You just need to believe in yourself, Emma. You have a gift, and I want to help you find a way to make it a reality." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had always dreamed of having her own art studio, of showcasing her work to the world, but she had never believed it was truly possible. But hearing Liam's words, seeing the way he believed in her, made her feel like maybe, just maybe, it could happen. "I don't know what to say," she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. "I've always wanted this, but I never thought it was possible. I'm just a waitress, Liam. I don't have the resources, the connections. How could I ever make it happen?" Liam took her hand in his touch gentle but firm. "You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You just need to take the first step. And I'll be here to help you along the way. You're not alone in this." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had never had anyone offer her that kind of support before. It felt surreal, but at the same time, it felt right. "I don't even know how to thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to thank me. Just know that I believe in you. And I want to help you make your dreams come true." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of hope rise inside her. Maybe this was the push she needed to finally follow her dreams. Maybe with Liam by her side, she could make her art a reality. "I'll try," she said, her voice full of determination. "I'll try to believe in myself, like you do." Liam's eyes softened as he looked at her, pride shining in his gaze. "That's all I'm asking," he said. "And I'll be right here, every step of the way." As the evening continued, Emma felt a new sense of excitement building inside her. She didn't know exactly how her future would unfold, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. With Liam's support, maybe she could finally chase her dreams, and maybe, just maybe, she could learn to love herself in the process. The following weeks were a mix of anticipation and uncertainty for Emma. She had agreed to take the first steps towards her dream of becoming an artist, but the road ahead still felt unclear. Liam's words echoed in her mind every day: "You don't have to have everything figured out right now. You just need to take the first step." And so, she did. With Liam's encouragement, she started to sketch more seriously, setting aside time every day to work on her art. At first, it felt difficult, like she was forcing herself to do something she wasn't sure she could handle. But slowly, her confidence began to build, and she realized that the more she allowed herself to create, the more natural it felt. Liam continued to support her in every way he could. He would take her to art shows, introduce her to other artists, and even help her find space for her artwork to be displayed. It was more than she could have ever imagined. For the first time in her life, she felt like her dreams were within reach. But just as Emma was starting to believe in herself, she received a phone call that shook her world. It was from her mother's doctor. "Emma, we need to talk about your mother's condition," the voice on the other end of the line said. Emma's heart sank. She had been trying to push the fear of her mother's declining health to the back of her mind, but now it was impossible to ignore. Her mother had been struggling with chronic health problems for years, and Emma knew that things were getting worse, but she had hoped there was still time. The doctor explained that her mother's condition had taken a turn for the worse and that they would need to make some difficult decisions in the coming weeks. Emma's mind raced. She had always been the one to care for her mother, juggling multiple jobs just to keep things afloat. But now, with her own life beginning to take shape, she felt torn between her family and her dreams. What was she supposed to do? Liam noticed the change in Emma the moment she walked into their favorite cafe the next day. She seemed distant, lost in her thoughts. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concern written all over his face. Emma hesitated, looking at the man who had become so important to her. She wanted to share everything with him, but part of her was still afraid. Afraid that if she let him in too much, he might see how broken she truly felt. "My mom, her health has gotten worse," Emma said quietly, her voice shaking. "I don't know what to do. I've always taken care of her, and now with everything else, I don't know if I can do it all." Liam reached across the table and gently took her hand in his. "Emma, you don't have to do it alone," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "You're not alone in this. I'm here for you, and we'll figure it out together. You don't have to carry this weight by yourself. Emma felt tears well up in her eyes as she squeezed his hand. It had been so long since she had felt supported, truly supported. She had spent so many years feeling like she had to do everything herself, but with Liam, everything felt different. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know what I would do without you. Liam gave her a soft smile, his eyes full of understanding. You don't have to worry about that. We'll figure it out. Whatever happens, I'm not going anywhere. Emma didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew that with Liam by her side, she didn't have to face the challenges ahead alone. Over the next few days, Liam helped Emma navigate the overwhelming responsibility of caring for her mother. He drove her to doctor's appointments, helped her with groceries, and even took her to the hospital when her mother's condition worsened. Slowly, Emma began to realize that, with Liam's support, she could handle more than she had ever imagined. And in the midst of all the uncertainty, she found herself falling for him more deeply than ever before. Liam's unwavering kindness, patience, and understanding became the anchor she needed. Despite everything that was happening with her family, Emma felt like she was finally starting to have control over her life. For the first time, she saw a future where her dreams weren't out of reach, and her relationship with Liam was a part of that future. One evening, as Emma sat by her mother's hospital bed, she received a text from Liam. I've been thinking. How about we take a weekend trip somewhere? Just you and me. No distractions, just time for us to relax and recharge. What do you think? Emma smiled as she read the message, her heart warming at the thought of spending some time away with Liam. She had been so focused on her family's needs that she hadn't realized how much she needed a break, how much she needed to reconnect with him. She quickly typed back, that sounds perfect. I'd love that. Liam's response came almost immediately, great. I'll make the arrangements. We deserve this. As Emma put her phone down, she looked at her mother, who was resting peacefully, and felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long time. She knew that life would never be perfect, but with Liam by her side, she was starting to believe that she could make it through anything. And just maybe, she could find the balance between her dreams, her family, and the love she was starting to build with him. As the weekend trip with Liam approached, Emma felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had never taken a trip like this before, especially not with someone like Liam. The idea of getting away from everything for a few days seemed like the perfect escape, but she also couldn't shake the anxiety of leaving her mother's side for a little while. She knew her mom was in good hands with the nurses and doctors, but part of her felt guilty for wanting to take a break. Liam had been nothing but supportive through it all, though, and he had insisted that she needed this time to herself. You've been through so much lately, he had said one evening, holding her hand as they sat together. You deserve to have a little time just for you. We'll go somewhere peaceful, and you can relax. I'll be here for you, no matter what. Emma couldn't argue with him. He was right. She had been so consumed with caring for her mom that she had neglected her own needs. She had spent so much time giving to others that she had forgotten to take care of herself. But with Liam, everything felt different. He made her feel like she could breathe again, like she could have a life outside of the constant worry. As they drove toward their weekend destination, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over her. The further they drove, the more her tension began to melt away. The quiet countryside surrounded them, and the peaceful sound of the wind rushing through the trees filled the car. It was exactly what she needed, time to clear her head and just be in the moment. Liam was, as always, by her side, making her feel like everything would be okay. They arrived at a small, charming bed and breakfast, tucked away in a quiet corner of the country. The place was cozy, with ivy crawling up the walls and flower boxes hanging from the windows. It was the kind of place that made Emma feel like she had stepped into a dream. Liam led her inside, smiling as he looked around. I thought you'd like it, he said, his voice filled with affection. Emma smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It's perfect, she replied. This is exactly what I needed. Over the next couple of days, they spent their time exploring the area, enjoying the simple pleasures of nature. They went on long walks through the woods, had picnics by a tranquil lake, and spent evenings by the fire, talking about everything and nothing. Emma felt like she could finally let go of all the weight she had been carrying. It was as if the pressure of her everyday life had been temporarily lifted, and she could just breathe. She realized how much she had missed moments like this, quiet, peaceful moments where she didn't have to worry about anything. One afternoon, as they sat by the lake, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he said, his voice serious but gentle. Emma looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. "What is it?" she asked, suddenly feeling a little nervous. Liam hesitated for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "I know we've been through a lot lately," he began, "and I know we're still figuring things out. But I just want you to know that I care about you, Emma. I care about you more than I can put into words." Emma's heart fluttered at his words, and she felt a rush of emotion. "Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I care about you too. I've never felt this way about anyone before." But she paused, unsure of how to continue. Liam took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "But you're scared, I know," he said, his eyes soft with understanding. "And that's okay. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I'll be here." Emma's heart swelled at his words, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She had spent so much time building walls to protect herself, but with Liam, she realized she didn't need to be afraid anymore. Slowly, she allowed herself to lean into the connection they shared. "I don't know what the future holds," she said softly, "but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to take a chance on us." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and affection. "That's all I need to hear," he said. "We'll take it one day at a time, Emma. Together." As they sat there, watching the sun begin to set over the lake, Emma felt a sense of peace settle in her heart. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what the future would look like, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like everything would be okay. With Liam by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. She had taken the first step toward trusting again, and that was all that mattered. As the weekend came to a close and they made their way back to the city, Emma realized that this trip had been more than just a getaway. It had been a turning point, a moment of clarity in her life. She had taken the time to rediscover herself, to reconnect with her dreams, and to open her heart to the possibility of love. She didn't know where the road would lead, but for the first time, she was no longer afraid to walk down it. As the weeks passed, Emma's life began to settle into a new rhythm. She had found a balance between caring for her mother, pursuing her passion for art, and building a relationship with Liam. Each day felt like a small victory, a step toward the life she had always dreamed of. She had been afraid to trust, afraid to believe that she could have it all, but with Liam by her side, she was beginning to realize that maybe she could. One afternoon, Emma was sitting in her small studio, working on a new piece of art, when she received a message from Liam. "I've been thinking about something," the text began. "I want to take this step with you, Emma. I want to build a future together. Will you marry me?" Emma's heart stopped for a moment as she read the message. Was she reading this correctly? She stared at the screen, her mind racing. She had always dreamed of a future where she could find love and success, but now that the moment had come, she wasn't sure if she was ready. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions, and while she knew she loved Liam, she had never imagined this would happen so soon. She thought back to all the struggles she had faced, the pain she had endured. Could she really take this leap? Could she trust that this was the real thing? As the moments ticked by, she realized that the fear she felt wasn't about Liam, it was about herself. She had spent so long feeling like she wasn't enough, like she wasn't worthy of a love like his. But now, looking back at everything they had been through together, she realized that she had changed. She was stronger now, more confident, and more willing to embrace the future. She quickly typed a response, "Yes, I'll marry you." I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The moment she hit send, she felt a rush of emotions flood through her. She had made the decision. She had chosen to trust herself and trust Liam. That evening, Liam picked her up, his usual warm smile lighting up his face as he greeted her at the door. "I'm so glad you said yes," he said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "I've been waiting for this moment, but I wanted to make sure you were ready. I want to build a life with you, Emma." Emma smiled, feeling her heart swell with happiness. "I'm ready," she said softly, her voice filled with love. The next few months flew by in a blur of wedding preparations, family gatherings, and more time spent with Liam, growing closer than ever. Emma had never imagined she would be here, on the verge of marrying the man she loved, with a future that seemed full of endless possibilities. As their wedding day approached, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She had started out as a woman full of doubt and fear, afraid of taking risks and afraid of trusting herself. But now, she was standing on the edge of something beautiful, something she had always wanted. On the day of the wedding, Emma stood in front of the mirror, looking at herself in the dress she never thought she would wear. The woman staring back at her was strong, confident, and full of love. She wasn't the same person who had walked into Liam's life all those months ago. She had grown, and she had learned to believe in herself. As she walked down the aisle, Liam stood waiting for her, his eyes shining with emotion as he watched her approach. Emma felt a rush of love for him. For everything they had been through, and for the life they were about to begin together. When they exchanged their vows, Emma's heart felt full, knowing that this was just the beginning. She had found her partner, her equal, and together, they were going to build a life full of love, art, and happiness. The reception was a joyful celebration of their love, surrounded by family and friends who had supported them along the way. As the night drew to a close, Liam took Emma's hand and led her out onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. As they swayed together, Emma realized that this was exactly where she was meant to be. She had found love when she least expected it, and in doing so, she had discovered a new version of herself, one that was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. With Liam by her side, she knew that no dream was too big and no obstacle was too great. The future was theirs to create, together.